Welcome to Vodhalla.
As the match goes on, but we're going to be seeing game number 1 here. Starting it off, did guess correctly, we're going to see Small Mammoth. It's going to be Kixe versus Solarson here in game number 1.
Alright, right off the bat, grab that sword, see what Kixe can do. As far as the opening damage is concerned, I'm actually really curious to see how it feels out, because I do feel like if Solarson gets the opening hits, like gets the opening pressure, the momentum's just going to sort of stay with him.
Well, it's all about how, basically a big thing is going to be on Solarson, finding out how consistent is Kixe at reading the dodges, because you're going to be looking for a lot of D-Light nairs, a lot of D-Light dares, just to get those big reads, but right now it doesn't matter, because Kixe coming in with the Katars and the double recoveries, reading the dodge away, you cannot touch the ground, Kixe taking the first KO.
That was a fantastic opening from Kixe. I was a little bit worried about if the pressure would end up letting off just because of the range that you'll see behind Solarson, but no, we're just gonna stay in all day, every day.
That's the thing, like, I mean, what's both of them just trying to just swing out neutral, just trying to back off, but Kixe will win out in that regard pretty much every time, does get the dodge, gets the damage on, but Solarson really kind of struggling here with the Rocket Lance. I think we're gonna see, yeah, I definitely wasn't surprised to see the attempt to switch off. Even with the recovery, still not getting a K off the top. Kixe just in full control of the match right now. Does finally lose the stock there, but deep in the red right now is Solarson.
Yeah, no, gotta do something to slow down this pace, because right now this is Kixe's game. Like, keeping that high tempo, that's kind of what I was expecting when you were alluding to in the pregame for this one. Just the pressure that is available from the Katars is just too strong right now. That 2-to-1 stock count, an excellent KO from Kixe.
Yeah, you see Kixe just feeling the Katars right now. Oh, catching him again, trying to find an extension off of GC, but does not get the hit. Solarson, even with the switch off to the axe, really hasn't established any type of fear. Like, the Rocket Lance has just been shown it's not doing it right now. So the axe does get in there, though, keeps the damage on. Just needs to find a bigger string, needs to find a good edge guard pretty soon. Otherwise, it's going to be a swift game 1 going to Kixe.
I feel like the problem for Solace's Orgrim has been that a lot of the battle is taking place in center stage, almost exactly in center stage, and the only time that we find ourselves near the ledge is when this Asuri is cooking. An amazing game 1 for Kixe.
Absolutely incredible game 1 from Kixe. Just so dominant. The way that we saw the play from the Katars in particular, like the sword play off the rip was also still pretty solid, but like outside of the quick strings that we saw from the D-Light nairs, the D-Light dares just keeping the damage going, as soon as Kixe realized, you're getting caught by a lot of these recovery reads, I'm gonna stick with that. So I'm probably not gonna be seeing a return to, yeah, Small Mammoth is banned. I wouldn't be surprised at this point now. Maybe Small Enigma or Apocalypse is most likely what's going to be picked, because you want more landing options. You had such a hard time touching the ground in that last one against Kixe. I think that if I'm Solarson, I'm switching up. But look at that damage difference, Frank. 76 and 50. Rough. That was just completely shut down.
Like, there's just no denying, like, once Katars are on board, like, Kixe was able to absolutely control the match. And, like, the small amount of close-range bouts that we saw Solarson able to survive in, it was mostly behind the Rocket Lance, and it wasn't very effective, unfortunately. And we're seeing the switch from Solarson to Val, which makes plenty of sense.
Yeah, I agree with this heavily. Like, so we're going to see Apocalypse, and we're going to see the switch to Val after what we saw a second ago with the Ulgrim just being completely shut down, just the entire way through. The switch off to Val here, being able to box with the gauntlets, already catching a nair off stage, and trying to go for the D-Sig just to kind of snipe and jump off. I mean, Solarson's already at least gotten a few hits off the rip, so pretty good difference here already.
I'd say so. This game 2 is looking like a matter of just fighting fire with fire. Like, if you want to play the fast-paced game, that's fine. Solarson looking ready and prepared for it.
Oh, such an incredible stock so far. It misses the touch. Yep. D-Light Sair into the Crown Pound is going to be the KO for Solarson, and already looking like you never should have touched Ulgrim game 1. This is how the set should continue.
I mean, there's always that value in picking into the tried and true and just proving like there's a reason why it's the tried and true, but this is how good players stay good by adapting. Like, you keep multiple legends in the pocket so that you're ready for a counter pick like this, because the VOUT is looking fantastic right now.
So absolutely, I try to catch a neutral state to catch him on the way back up, but like these D-Light stairs just consistently connecting. Now switching off into the guitars. This is exactly what we saw. Catching a dare, trying to get some damage on. I think, like, if you're Kixe, it's like, well, I'm losing the sword ditto right now. I need to stay on the guitars. As you find the weapon toss off the top, doesn't get the KO though. Does, however, find the side stick, does not get the KO as well, and just missing it off the side there. Solarson holding on just a little bit longer to the first stock.
It was a pretty big gamble, but ends up paying out pretty well for Kixe. Manages to secure guitars again, and the idle tosses, I think, are smart, but they're very bold calls given the situation right now, because Solarson's still sitting here on first stock, hasn't been KO'd, and sitting in the deep red, but not especially worried about losing the stock, it seems.
I think I makes sense. Yeah, you want to go for the consistent KO. You want that D-Light Sarah, the D-Light recovery to be able to get the KO right now, because you were just having such a hard time finding it with the guitars. You don't really have that free confirm the same way. So getting it back here, this is not by any means super comfortable for Solarson. We saw what happened in that previous game. Kixe with advantage is nuts. So that lead you have, you better take advantage of it.
That's very true, AJ, although I do think we have a very fresh dynamic ahead of us, because now we have weapons behind Solarson that are very well suited to that close-range scuffle. And where it was very clear that the Ulgrim was struggling in that game 1, the VOUT is not struggling in the slightest. Solarson's going to take yet another KO to his favor. And moving along so smooth.
That was such a good dodge and decide like a recovery right there. Just being able to catch him off guard. Now switching it back over to the sword. This sword has been putting in so much work for Solarson, as we see the D-Light recovery just get some damage on off the jump. I think a big thing, it's not even just the consistent combos that we're getting now with the switch off the VOUT, whereas Ulgrim had to go for the single stray hits. Solarson is actually connecting on all those stray hits now. The reads are actually on point this time, Hangman.
Yeah, there's a certain level of fluidity behind how Solarson's opting to play this out, and it looks more comfortable. I think that's the big word to use, is that game 1, Solarson looked very uncomfortable. Here, 2 stocks taking the win, the VOUT looking very comfortable, AJ.
VOUT is the way. It is the answer right now. Do not switch off this VOUT unless you get absolutely bodied. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, catching the recovery at the end, being able to take the KO off the top. It's just been so well played by Solarson that time round. But this time we're going to be seeing what looks... Okay, so far our bans are Small Brawlhaven, Snow Enigma, Great Hall, and Crystal Temple. I wouldn't be surprised if we run it right back to Apocalypse. I think Kixe is still playing pretty confident, even though they lost that match. You could still see a couple of moments that were starting to shine. The damage was still pretty close overall. It's just the big difference was the sword in Solarson's favor was so much higher, where it was 54 to 320.
I was just about to bring it up, because you mentioned it during game 2, how like the sword play was just looking much better behind Solarson than it was Kixe. I'm curious to see as we move into game 3 if that's going to mean Kixe going to lean heavier into the guitars, which we've already seen is very proficient with.
Okay, so we're
I stand corrected.
Yeah, I think this makes a little bit of sense as well in the counter pick here for Kixe. Going to Demons gives way less room to touch wall and get back. That was one of the things that was so strong for Kixe in that game 1, where it just consistently kept winning on edge guards and forcing like Solarson into a weird spot off stage to the point where he wanted to jump too much in center stage. Having that room to work with here might work out, but granted, Solarson wasn't afraid to also go deep off, so it could come back to bite him, but no platforms here, only flat stage now.
Yeah, and I think that's important because it's going to force a lot of the battle towards center stage, and you can see that Kixe is already trying to bait Solarson into that position. That's where Kixe looked their strongest, not just in game 1 with an overwhelming victory, but game 2 as well, when Kixe was able to bring back momentum to their favor. It was from these bouts that are deep on stage, where there's no chance for that off-stage reversal from Solarson.
Absolutely. Right now, pretty much, you can see Solarson playing passive, but does get called out for it, trying to run up, and the good read from Kixe is going to find the KO off the right-hand side. Speaking of good reads, just keep him going right now, getting a couple of hits. Trying to find the neutral lights at the ledge to snipe the jump off of Solarson there. Solarson just trying to hunt back for the sword. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. We talked about that damage difference before. The sword is pretty much what's gotten Solarson that game 2. It's going to be what you need to get back here into this game 3.
A bit of reservation on trying to pick out Solarson from the sky. I think that was actually really smart from Kixe to try and like optimize what you could do with this stock lead that you have, because this damage differential, it's pretty clear that like Kixe is living on borrowed time right now. but Solarson has not had the opportunity to make anything with all of that damage. Instead, Kixe just rolling on it. Did GC see the snipe too? All right.
Oh, that was so good. That was so good.
This is Kixe's game, and this is Kixe reminding you that it's their game.
Catching that that D-Light Zare into recovery, catching the GC off stage, and then Weapon Toss just to clean it all up. Does get KO'd off the top from the recovery, but Kixe basically just put a big mental damage on Solarson there. After Solarson had such a good job keeping the game even, still very much doable. This sword put in a lot of work in that last game, but I think Kixe is starting to wake up a bit.
Yeah, no, that stock was very much the Kixe seal of ending. Like, this isn't his game. He's got this. It's going to be a 2-1 count. He's just going to make it happen because right now, even though Solarson very much in it, yes, but still a full stock behind. And Kixe is not slowed down at all.
Absolutely not. And this game 3 here is so crucial because we're seeing a beautiful back and forth play between these two so far. But Kixe gets more dominant quickly. If you're Solarson, you need to get this game up now. So hopefully by game 5, you maybe have gotten Kixe tired enough. But both of them attempting GCs. It's going to be Kixe who walks away with the hit, finds the dare, trying to find a nair as well. But GC Sarah is going to put him off stage and then go for a ground pound. But that's a big swing and a miss. Does get the dodge to get back on though. Both of them just trying to find it. Ground pounds everywhere, but does not get anything. And now Solarson deep in the red. One D-Light Zare or one side sig away, and that's going to take it.
You know, big respect on Kixe trying to end it in style. Well, like, you had everything in the tank to be able to afford to do that. You had the stock up, you had all the momentum, still managed to come back, even with Solarson trying to find the reversal. But in the end, things died down. Kixe just did a fantastic job of securing the game 3. Now, reminder, this is the best of 5. Only going into the 2-1 count. So we could very much see the rubber game. I wouldn't be too surprised to see us go to game 5, but the way that Kixe played there was just fantastic from start to finish.
Absolutely. I honestly would love to see a game 5 in this set right now. These two have been going back and forth so well. I really love the switch off to the Val. The difference, obviously, though, in that damage, Kixe woke up after that first stock, was really able to start winning out with the sword, whereas before, just it was invalidated. And then the guitars, too, still putting in that work, but I think the big difference was the sword play. And also kind of a big difference, too, was no platforms. We saw Solarson...
I was just about to say, I'm really glad you brought that up, AJ, because given the size of the stage, and given how little leniency there was on playing off stage, or anywhere but center stage, I think that's what allowed Kixe to really thrive in that game.
Yep, I'm very curious to see where we're going to go, to be honest. Because from the way things were in that match with the flat stage, you didn't really get much out of it. So let's see what they decide to do in terms of switching it back up with the platforms or not. I wouldn't be surprised to see if we run it to something like Miami Dome or maybe run it back to Apocalypse. But already we're seeing, actually no, Apocalypse did end up getting banned. So the available picks right now, you have 3 platforms available here for Kixe to be able to jump to.
Quite frankly, I would just be shocked if we go to Brawlhaven. Like,
I would be too.
It's either Enigma or Miami Dome. Given how, Miami Dome is the pick. I think this is a good one because you do have a bit of leniency to that playoff stage, and we have a bit of a different change in dynamic that I wasn't expecting.
We have
the Asuri mirror.
We have the Asuri mirror, and honestly, I'm not surprised we ended up on Miami Dome because this is where pretty much what we were alluding to with the platforms, being able to kind of hover around them. But the call out here from Solarson saying, okay, fine, I could do it better. Anything you can do, I can do better. We're gonna see the switch off here to the Asuri, and let's see how things go here in game number 1. I mean, excuse me, game number 4.
We saw kind of a layer of this when we moved along into game 2, once we saw the Val come out, and the sword play was starting to look stronger from Solarson. So maybe this is just another level of one-upping, where it's like, okay, Solarson can just attempt to beat Kixe at their own game.
I mean, it's either like you're putting all your eggs in your basket at this point because this is the end of your BCX run. If this doesn't work, the switch off to the guitars. Maybe not feeling comfortable enough in the gauntlet play. We barely saw any gauntlets actually come out from Solarson with the Val pick, so this could be a big part of it. Trying to just kind of match the pressure, match the pace here. So far, Kixe kind of just keeping them running away. I think Solarson's just looking for one. Yeah, Solarson's looking for one opportunity to potentially switch off. But instead, actually staying committed to it. Had the opportunity to maybe throw away and switch it. This is so funny watching Guitar Dittos because they just dance around.
It's, you know what's funny about it is that there's this insistence on both these players wanting to play how they want to play. Because as Kixe has shown throughout several games already, there is a persistence to staying to center stage. Like, this fight must happen in center stage because there's just more ground to play with, and that's more opportunity for Kixe to win out in the scramble. Solarson opting to hover around the ledge, hover around the platforms, wait for that opportunity to just sort of pop and return to safety. And so far, it's working out in Game 4. We see the first KO. Favor Solarson.
Yeah, I think Solarson's still working so well with the sword. Catching that D-Light recovery off that first KO. Trying to find a big GC side sig. Just catch Kixe, move him, and Kixe, good defensive discipline just to hold their ground. But Kixe doesn't look... Alright, there we go. Finally finds a dare to recovery. Misses KO off the top. Doesn't find in there as well. Tries to go for another one. Just misses out. Kixe, like, you can see Kixe is just kind of trying to play a bit slow, not trying to overcommit, but doesn't look as confident in their approach as they were in the previous games.
Yeah, I think it's a recognition of the different tools that are available to Solarson now, because you're matching swords and guitars. Like, you're sitting in a position now, if you overextend even a tiny bit, Solarson is returning that with a lot of damage, and as we saw with the first KO, like, potential early KOs to follow.
Yeah,
look at the damage differential. They're pretty close.
Hey, Kixe having a just terrible time about it and finding his first KO here on Solarson. We saw weapon toss. We saw the multiple attempts to trying to catch the jump read Sayers, but Solarson is just matching back up. Oh, gets the big dodge read. Wins out on there. Gets a little bit more damage. Can we find a recovery read? Yes, we can. And that's going to be Kixe still dropping the taunt on him too, trying to wake up a bit.
I'm here for it. If we gotta one-up people back and forth, we gotta keep it classy.
Hey, you know,
that's just how it's gotta go.
It's the name of the game sometimes. You gotta try and get somebody's head. Like, if you can get the mental war going, then you get them to kind of run in on you. You already won.
Yeah, I feel like that's especially potent given how Kixe has been opting to play out this entire set. Like, if you could force Solarson out of the defensive position, that's big.
Something I've noticed too here with this, the D-Light recovery is going to be a quick notice. Put us on notice right there, catching the KO off the top. Kixe, we saw in those previous games, Frank, was so good at catching repeated reads with the Katars to get that damage on. We have been seeing Kixe pretty much only go for neutral lights, and that's it. Like, it's neutral light and then stand still. Nothing happens after. And that's huge, because Solarson basically gets to walk away with this big lead right now.
Yeah, it's just Asuri's such a nimble character that you just have to respect a lot of what you can do in one interaction without overextending. And it's kind of just sort of looking yourself in the mirror is what you're forced to do, really.
Oh!
Like, you know how much you can get off of one interaction. Now you're recognizing that Solarson, a player of respectable skill level, is able to do just as much if you overextend. So you do need to have a little bit of hesitation. Play smart.
I mean, Kixe was looking pretty good there. Actually, Kixe starting to catch on to a lot of the swings at a disadvantage here from Solarson. Does get smacked away by neutral lights, though. What? Here's the recovery. Catches him once again. Can you make your way back? Looking for the jump. Not going to catch it. Solarson gets a does not get the dodge. Kixe misses out on the jump recovery read, though. Deep in the red. It looks like we could be going to a game 5. And we still have 2 stocks up in favor of Solarson right now.
Just waiting for the opportunity to strike. Not trying to overextend a little bit. I love this safe play. Solarson keeps playing like this game 5 is practically guaranteed.
Like, no KO off the top with the recovery either. Like, just like unarmed recovery, still not finding it. Trying to find himself, but D-Light recovery absolutely will. Right there. Asuri dominance on both sides. Let's see if Kixe can run it back and possibly take it here in game 4, but deep in the red right now, it's sure not looking too hot.
Yeah, no, it's a non-zero chance, but it's pretty close to it. Like, considering how at this point Solarson's only really been looking for that opportunity to find the KO. Like, there's really not much else for Solarson to do.
Well, what you're saying is there's a chance. And that chance is very slim at that. Kixe definitely, like, Kixe is hovering around. I don't blame Solarson at all. I'm going to platform camp. You come up to me so I can find you doing that. Exactly that. Once you jump up, I'm going to capitalize. Recovery off the jump is going to take it out. Solarson pushes it to a game number 5. I love it. It's BCX Internationals. You do not want to go down into 3-0. You want to make sure that you capitalize big both of them pushing it all the way, and the big throw off with the counter pick to the Asuri Ditto. What?
Yeah, I think this is really smart. Like, Solarson's been just forced around all over the character select. Like, these legends working out now that it's the Asuri Ditto, but I don't know. I feel like the way that Kixe has been playing, I would not be surprised to see Kixe adapt accordingly and bring it on home. But that's on Kixe. Solarson were looking kind of good in that game for, like, very defensive play, but defensive play works for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, Kixe does have stage advantage in terms of being able to force no platforms here. This is huge. You know, like, you're pretty much... I think the safest bet here for a Solarson is probably to go to small mammoth if that is even left alone for a counter pick, because it's small mammoth or apocalypse are going to get banned at this point. We saw how strong the platforms worked, so if you force that flat zone at least with small mammoth, it's gonna be a lot easier for Kixe to box because Kixe just kept winning, and that's what we're gonna see here. It's either small brawl haven. Actually, we're gonna see the full commitment over to small brawl haven. No platforms, only fights. These hands are ready to eat for everybody. Game number 5, Frank. It's time, and they stuck it out with the Asuri Ditto.
I feel like that makes a ton of sense. It seems like they'd have very different approaches to how to use Asuri's tools, but they're both very good approaches at that. So we got to see who's going to win out now. Out the gate, it got scrappy real quick.
I think what we're seeing right now, this weapon setup, is what we're primarily going to see out of the two. Kixe's Katars have put in the most work, and Solarson's sword has by far and away put in way more work. Granted, this was prior to the switch off to the Asuri, so we've seen a little bit with the Katars, not nearly as much advantage state control as Kixe has had, but Kixe, speaking of which, trying to prevent Solarson from touching the ground, and does switch off to the sword, so trying to just box him out, get those quick confirms, as we're seeing that continue right now.
Yeah, it looks like both these players had heard what you were saying. We got a bit of a role reversal, though. Kixe opting on the sword. I think that's actually a smarter choice given the current dynamic, because Solarson is still remaining very defensive, forcing the approach and trying to react accordingly, which the Katars are good for, but Kixe trying to have a bit more options on the approach and trying to threaten the KO a little bit earlier. I think the sword is a good pick, but the comfort behind the Katars has just looked so good for Kixe, and
I love it!
because Kixe don't even need it!
Yo, sometimes you just need a big right haymaker in a dream, just running up on him, punching him right off the stage. Hey, everybody got a plan until they get punched in the face. Now, what does Solarson do to respond? You're getting close to D-Light recovery ranges as well as D-Light Stare, so Kixe has to be very careful about just overcommitting too hard, which is why we're seeing Kixe stay grounded, and D-Light recovery is still not going to get the K off the top just yet.
Solarson trying to play very safe, I think, is the good call, because
look
what happens, you see all of a sudden a crack in the damage, and Kixe's just starting to run wild.
I love it. Like, you haven't really seen... Kixe's just been holding stage so long. We haven't seen a big dare attempt in a while. But does find the DL recovery, the GC DL recovery into the KO. Solarson's going to get himself back on the board. Only in the yellow. It take a lot of damage and a lot of fear put into their soul after getting hit by the dare ground pound. But does have weapon control right now. Let's see if Kixe can get continue to lead. Honestly, this has been such a close back and forth. I don't even know who to pinpoint right now, Hangman.
Yeah, honestly, I feel the same way, AJ, because I've been looking at this game, and I feel like throughout the set, you could see, like, oh, this player will take it, this player will take it, and why they'll take it. Here, I feel like it's very evenly matched, and this stage gives a lot of leniency to that offstage play, as we already saw early on in that second stock. Solarson opting just to wall hug to play things out defensively, see how Kixe was going to respond, and Kixe still able to find plenty of burst damage. No special struggle with holding stage. Like, the offstage play has still looked in Kixe's favor, but I do feel like it's on Solarson's control. Like, Solarson's the one who's forcing this to be a very back-and-forth battle.
I mean, if you look at...
Good on Solarson.
Oh, GCT light into recovery, not going to find the KO off the top, but, like, one of the things we... Oh, going for a big read right there, looking for a run-up, but Solarson not going to give it, not going to get the hit. But this, if you looked at game one compared to now, you would not be thinking it looked like this slow at all. They were swinging. But speaking of swinging, another unarmed KO comes through. Kixe with a very, very small lead. D-Right recovery will absolutely take it out pretty much at this point. So Solarson has to find that one hit. Get it back to one stock apiece. I want to see it go down to last stock, last hit.
Oh, you know me, I'm always out
there. It is!
So, and we're in that situation very quickly, too. No damage built up at the Solarson, but let's see what Kixe can do to try and turn the tide. Needs something in hand, because even though the unarmed strikes have been finding the KOs, it's the Katars that have been really sealing this set for Kixe.
For Solarson, it's about playing that slow passive play as we're seeing right now, keeping the control of the pace of the ground, making sure that Kixe can't find that big hit, but Kixe, off of one good side light, we've seen how much Kixe could do. The recovery, pushing him deep off stage, now switching off to the sword. Solarson's pretty much been making the most work, gets the big whiff punish here with the D-Light Seer, keeping that damage on Frank, as we see a slight switch of reversal. Kixe needs to find a big string right now.
Whenever Kixe does find that hit, those tend to be what they are. They tend to be very reliable strings behind the Katars, and they set off into some sort of bombastic interaction where all of a sudden you don't know who's going to come out on top alive, but Solarson armed at the ready in a very good position right now.
Oh, well, oh, perfect time weapon toss. Absolutely perfect time. Catching Kixe, trying to get back on, but the weapon starve continues. And now, Solarson does not prevent that one. There's the neutral lights. Catches the jump. There's the big Sair. Does catch him. And that's going to be it. Catching up with the GC. Catching up with the Sair off the side of the stage. And Kixe capitalizing big and closing it out, preventing Solarson from winning with the Assyria Ditto and shutting it down. Incredible play from Kixe at the end to move forward here in lowers bracket and keep their BCX hopes alive.